So in this video I'm going to give you the overview scores, a score breakdown and some detail about the Republic of Gaming device from Asus, the GL752VW with the GeForce GTX 960 inside. We have 2 terabytes of storage plus an SSD in here, as well as a Core i7 quad-core processor, the latest Skylake. But first, take a look at the scores and the score breakdown. 83% is in the good range. It's not up there with the best in the class. And if you look to the Acer V Nitro Black Edition, you'll see during this review some better scores in some areas from that laptop, which scored a little bit higher in our overall score. But there's the score breakdown for you. I'm also going to give you the pros and cons right up front. There's a list of the pros, and we'll talk about some of those as we go through the details later in this video. And there's some of the cons, so things like battery, the non-IPS screen need to be investigated. So there's a basic pros and cons for you. Let's zip all the way back to the start now, and we're going to talk about specifications. I'm going to give you some performance tests from our screen measurements that we did in the lab, also performance tests on the CPU, GPU, heat, noise and battery life as well. So let's take it from the top again. The Asus GL752VW, the quad-core i7 6700HQ inside with the Nvidia GeForce GTX 960M. So we should be looking at mid-range PC gaming here, certainly up to full HD resolution on some games as well. 8 gigs of RAM in this. There's a slot free. You can actually access the underside of this, and there's a second slot free, so there's an upgrade path there. And the storage, as I mentioned, we've got an mSATA, that's an NVMe sort of 80mm drive connected by SATA, 256 gigabyte drive, and then that 2 terabyte spinning hard drive from Seagate. Let's take a look at the connections while we're here, and on this side you'll see we've got a USB-C port, we've got a USB full-size port, gigabit Ethernet, HDMI, and a display port as well, so dual digital display outputs. There's the power. Let me spin that around, and on the other side you will see the separate audio and headset port, so it's not a separate audio out and headphone or microphone port, so for classic 2-port headsets, 2 USBs, and 2 of those 3 USBs are actually USB 2, one of them is a USB 3, and there's your DVD writer there. So one thing to note is everything's kind of towards the front of the device here. There's nothing on the back, so no display output on the back there, which can help with some gaming situations. Obviously this is a big display device, 17.3 inches, and it's a full HD display, but it's not IPS, so some of you that were looking for an IPS on the latest ROG 17.3 inch from Asus are going to be a little bit disappointed, but don't worry too much, because I'm going to quickly head towards the lab test results, and you'll see a couple of reasonable performance scores from the screen. Starting with 289 nits center brightness on the screen, not incredibly high, but this is a 3 kilogram device and not something that's going to go on the road for too many people. And that applies to the battery as well. We'll talk a bit more about that later. It's a small battery with small battery life. But have a look at the reasonable contrast of 1156. The black levels are quite good, and it's a bit difficult to show you. Let me see if I can just pump the brightness up there on that one. Where are we? Here we go. And there you can see on this camera up here, not too much inversion and fading. And in fact, if you go left and right, for a non-IPS panel, that's actually pretty good. Color accuracy is in the medium range, 6 to 7s on the deltas. We're looking for 5 and below for the best screens. 6 to 7 is sort of average, middle average, tending towards 10. Does get a little bit bad, start to get really noticeable difference in colors when you've got a delta of 10. sRGB 95%, so a good coverage of the colors as well. Have a look at that comparison table, and you'll see that V Nitro Black, which is something we're really comparing closely to in this review, gets an overall 16% better on the screen scores with a slightly higher brightness, slightly more accurate colors as well. But this is by no means a bad screen, especially considering it's not an IPS screen. Let's go to Cinebench Multi, and we've got four devices here. 5 devices, sorry, no, 4 with the same Core i7 6700HQ CPU, a high-end Core i7, clocking up to 3.1 dual core, I believe. 3.3, and then it actually throttled down in some of our tests to 3.1, so it held pretty well. It didn't throttle very much at all. And there you can see that the GL752 up there, it's plus or minus 1% with the other devices in that Cinebench test, and there's a good comparison there with a Core i5-421H at 30 points, 50% less performance. There's a 16 single bit test, 64 single core tests, and the GL752VW coming out quite well in that one. PC Mark 8, not quite as performant as that V Nitro Black Edition with a score of 3.434. I have got the PC Mark 7 score for you. That's a healthy 5.544. Actually beats the V Nitro Black in that test. PC Mark, the V Nitro Black, beats it on that test. Now then, disk. Let's consider we've got 2 disks in here. We've got the spinning hard drive, which you're going to be using for storing your games. So that means starting up of games could be a little bit slower than a device that has an SSD inside for large storage of games. But look at that SSD itself. You have got 256 gigs, and we've got a top speed there of nearly 500 megabytes per second sequential read. So that's theoretical maximum almost for a SATA 3 connected SSD. The 4K read and write scores there, 27.7 and 79.3 are actually pretty good as well. So no problem with the SSD, but when you go to that spinning hard drive, you make sure you don't put the operating system on that or any critical files. You might want to consider putting your best, most popular games on the SSD, and then sort of stuff that you don't use too often or stuff that's not that critical on the spinning hard drive. Big keyboard here, full size, a nice throw and a solid feedback. And I like the keyboard a lot. There's a single red color backlight to the screen there. Touchpad, not too bad. And also the click buttons on the bottom left, bottom right, also pretty nice. A lot of you will be using this with a mouse, so maybe that touchpad not so important for you, but the keyboard is really quite nice. Slightly highlighted WASD keys for your movement. So I mentioned mid-range gaming performance. You can look at this as a current mid-range performer, current games, older games, high-end performer. Some newer games are going to be giving you full HD, decent frame rate. Well, take a look at these scores here. Rainbow Siege 6, a 2015 game, up to 45.6 frames per second on a full HD setup. Just Cause 3, high, coming in at 33.8. That's borderline, but certainly at medium settings, 63.5 should give you an enjoyable experience and should allow you to turn on VSync for the 60 frames per second experience. So that's pretty good in terms of gaming performance, and it's important to note that it doesn't get too hot as well. So maximum temperatures we measured, and don't forget we didn't see any downclocking here, so this whole performance platform here is actually pretty good at holding its own and not getting too hot. That's kind of one of the advantages of a 17-inch screen-based device. You've got more space inside, more space for air to move around and cool down these system components. So maximum temperatures there were 44.8 on the underside and 44.1 on the top. Really nothing to worry about. What about noise though? Sometimes things can get noisy when they're kept quiet. Well, this does get a little bit noisy under full load, and you'll see a 44.2 dBA measurement in our full load, long-term load test. So that does get a little bit into the audible range towards the loud range of what we call 50 dB and above a loud range. So 44.2, watch out for that. Exhaust is actually at the bottom on this as well, so no lapping. Exhaust here, and exhaust also on the, no, that's the speakers, I'm just looking for the other exhaust. Oh, it's on the side, of course. There's the other exhaust there. Or whether that, yeah, that must be the exhaust and the inputs at the bottom, I suspect. And now I want to talk about energy and power and battery life. This little baby will take 114 watts at the wall if it's really pushed under load. And the power supply, here it is. What is reaching over? Of course, it's going to be fairly hefty. That's the power supply. Not actually that heavy at all compared to some of the other 17-inch devices we've had recently, but not a very small power supply. So, battery runtime. You're not expecting big figures from this battery, are you? What was the capacity? 53 watt-hours is the capacity. That's relatively small. For a device that can take 100 watts at the wall, yes, well, under load, yes, 61 minutes, 1 hour battery life. This is a device, if you take into consideration that display, the display brightness, the weight, and that battery is really only there for a short-term use, and they've, I think, cut a little bit of a corner in terms of battery capacity. Also remember, a smaller battery means more space inside for other components, and that might be why this is running well for longer periods without throttling. Cram a big battery in there and you're taking a lot of thermal space away. So maybe that's a good choice by ASUS not to focus on mobility and battery life on this 17.3-inch device. There are more battery life figures there. The Wi-Fi value, 158 minutes, what's that, 2.5 hours there? There we go, 2.5 hours on Wi-Fi surfing. So you'll probably get a lot done in 2.5 hours. That quad-core Core i7 45-watt TDP processor bringing you a fair bit of performance, but it's not something you want to take on a long train trip, or indeed, you don't even want to try putting this on a seatback table on a flight, believe me. Right, I showed you the scores at the head of the video. There they are again, and as you can see, we knocked it down for weight, 79%. We knocked it down for audio as well, 66.4. We didn't find that fantastic. And if you look at the screen, the display figure there, 82.3. Well, actually, surprisingly good given the fact that it's a non-IPS display. The contrast was good, and the color coverage good, color accuracy not too bad. 83% overall. I'm going to leave you there with the pros and cons on the screen so you can read through that, but I advise you to go and look at the full review where there's a lot more detail, a lot more input from our reviewer, Sven Klovenkorn, I'm not sure if I get that right, Klovenkorn, Sven, is that right? And also lab test results on the thermals, on the heat, on the noise, etc., etc. You can check those out. Also the comparison tables with that important Acer V Nitro Black. Speaking of which, look what we got here for the next review. It's the V15 Nitro Black Edition, and I should be able to get to that within 24 hours of this review going out. So if you're looking for a 15-inch gaming laptop, that could be one to watch out for. We've already tested the V15 Nitro non-black edition, and that got a good score. So wait till we check that V15 Nitro out before you make your gaming laptop choice. Maybe this is a little bit more mobile focused with a little bit longer battery life. We'll see. That was the Asus GL752VW, a hefty 3 kilogram, 17-inch gaming device with a good bit of performance in here. Slightly limited on the screen, very limited on the battery life, getting 82% score from us. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you got anything from this video. If you're getting anything from any of our videos, please, the thumbs up helps us to continue doing this for you. Don't forget to subscribe, certainly if you want to see that V15 Nitro video coming up next. Enable email notifications and you'll get notifications in your mailbox when that one goes out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on another Notebook Check Tech Review.